So the next step for me, after researching and spending a while doodling out some design elements, or these are sometimes otherwise known as motifs. They're kind of individual things that you can use to put together to make a pattern design. And sometimes individual elements might be used on their own. So you might design a pattern and then you might have, for example, one of these designs on their own as well. So for example, I don't know, on a notebook cover or something, you might have a set of 3 notebooks, and one of them will be just one of the motifs, another one will be a pattern including various motifs, and so forth. So for this folio focus brief, the idea was to have a main pattern and some, or rather 2 main patterns and some supporting patterns. So I've just done a variety of motifs that I can explore possibilities for designs with in Photoshop. So what I like to do to get these into Photoshop with ease is to use the Adobe Capture app. And what you can do in this app is you can take a photo. It's probably difficult for you to see actually. Let me see. It takes a photo in black and white of whatever the camera can see, and then it transfers it into a vector format, and it also puts it in my library, which I can then access on Photoshop through the cloud. Hopefully you can see there, there's just a whole range of all my different things that I have turned into vectors in the past. So this will then appear in my Photoshop. Now I should note that even though the Adobe Capture app turns the designs into vectors, of course, because I'm using Photoshop, these aren't actually going to be vectors, they're just going to be PNGs. But this is fine for Photoshop. They are captured with no background, so if I didn't have the white background there, you know, I'd be able to have any colour behind it that I like. So that's really handy. Saves time, because if you were to scan your work, put it into Photoshop, you'd have to spend some time getting rid of the white background. So by using Adobe Capture to turn it into a vector, I can then use those vectors in either Photoshop or Illustrator. I don't actually have Illustrator, so I just use them in Photoshop as PNGs. Now I haven't shown all of the patterns I made in this kind of speed recording. I did spend a long time making about 6 patterns, which I'll show at the end of the video, but just for a little insight into how I play around and make patterns, I've just kind of showed a few clips here of the design of 2 patterns, I think it is. I tend to use I kind of experiment as I go along, and I tend to use a colour palette if I have one. That's what I've done there. I've minimised a window with a colour palette so that all I have to do is sample the colours every time I want them. And my process is pretty much trial and error when I'm designing patterns. I try all sorts of things. Some things work well, some things don't look so good, but that's the whole point of trying to explore ideas, because sometimes some really cool effects can come out of experimenting with different methods, such as the if you scroll down in the, I've forgotten what it's called, but there's you can scroll down where it says normal, you can scroll down and there's all different kind of layer effects that you can do to the picture. So you can you know, like the options like overlay and pin light, hard light, soft light, those kind of effects if you scroll through those, you can sometimes stumble across some really cool effects. But anyway, I'll stop rambling on now. So this is just a little insight into some of my pattern design process. It's not a tutorial, obviously. It's just a bit of an insight into how I work. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you like the look of the patterns at the end of the video. Don't forget, I am wanting some Q&A questions because I've nearly hit 7,000 views, so it would be nice to do kind of a celebration video with some Q&A questions, and I'll probably be doing a giveaway as well. So yeah, enjoy, and I'll see you next time.